Hello again. We're now going to talk about Lord of the Rings animated. And what the hell is this? This is the Ralph Bakshi animated Lord of the Rings film that came out in the late 70s. Did okay. People expected a sequel, never got one. Why? We don't know. The film did well, but not amazing. Maybe they thought people had been burnt by this film and maybe there was no way to do another one. I don't know. But this was an epic film that did some things well, other things badly. Now, I saw it in a Blu-ray I got from Love Film. I bought from Love Film out of business. You could get a lot of the old stock online. And that's one of the films I picked up from various sellers on eBay. And it's strange. It's strange. It's an odd film. And it's one of those films that's weird because Bakshi seems to have a weird competitive relationship with Peter Jackson now. Even though Jackson actually said there was some stuff in there that was very helpful to him and something like the other stuff he was so keen on. Which is kind of like anyone watched the film probably feel the same way. Because there's some things that work and things that really don't work. And it's like, but Bakshi seems to have had this, at least from what I've seen and read, where it's like he never watched the films, but he felt he should have more credit for these successful versions of this film that he didn't make because of his influence. It's like, yeah, but wasn't the book a bigger influence than your film? Really? The books themselves. Like, you're adapting a book, someone else adapted a book. Yes, they did a couple of things that you did because they said that that's the best way to do it. And there was other stuff they did completely different because they could see from the Bakshi film, this is not how you do it. This is really not how you do it. Like, you have to have characterization and characters. This film doesn't have any because the thing about the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings films, right, is they have characters that you can follow through the story. This film has people with names and shapes and decent actors playing them, but they don't have much characterization. And, you know, it's just a weird film. I mean, John Hurt plays Aragorn in this film, and you can tell his voice straight away. But the model they have for him, it's also they had an actor who they could record doing the stuff and then replace them with John Hurt's dialogue talking. What a weird thing I've just said there. But, you know what I mean? Just have the voiceover of John Hurt going over the voice of the original actor. And he's just the most unexpressive actor, so you have no sense of this as a future king. It just doesn't work. So you've got one central character who you really rely on to actually be important, isn't there. He's just a bland character. And the hobbits are very characterless. I mean, you get that Sam's like almost a stalker in this film for Frodo. It feels much less like the healthy friendship of the Lord of the Rings where Sam is looking out for Frodo in the Peter Jackson film. This much more feels like a stalker. Because it feels much less affection. There have scenes where they're trying to suggest the affection for each other. But it doesn't work. The acting's not up to par. The animation isn't that interesting for the hobbits or the humans. So you've got people just for dialogue each other rather than get a sense of anything emotional. Boromir has this weird Viking hat that just makes you laugh every time you see him. So you can basically... his stuff is not serious. The elf stuff looks quite cool, but also very cartoonish at the same time. It's like they're just human beings with some funny ears, which Jackson did, but Jackson had a suggestion of another world that was very different from ours. In this one, it feels like they're just humans with pointy ears and immortality. You don't get a sense of a different culture. And the dwarfs are just there. So, there's lots of stuff all the characters just don't work because they're compressing like 2 books into a 2-hour running time. And you don't have time, it's just like do. There's no character stuff, it's just like there's no time to stop. So basically, by the time that Peter Jackson's characters leave on the road to Mordor after getting to to meet the elves. By the time we go to that, in this film we've got to the end of the Two Towers. It's slightly different film, and you really tell how you needed these dialogue scenes. Now, John Boorman was going to do a version of Lord of the Ring in the 70s, and then when his film didn't go right, they did this one instead. And Boorman later on said that his version would never have worked very well. It just never worked. They were going to use small people as the hobbits, and the way Peter Jackson did it was a much better way of doing it. But when you look at what he did with Excalibur, which was a long story done in 2 hours 20, he had good actors and they all had personalities, and the atmosphere really gave it a sense of place. That would have worked a lot better than this. The animation just kills the dialogue and kills the characterization. So even if you have scenes where, this could be quite interesting, the way they do it isn't, because whenever any hobbit's in danger, it's like, which hobbit's this again? The only difference in their animation is what colour hair they've got. And you get them confused anyway, because for a while I think it was Pippin was Frodo during one scene, because just they looked so similar. But there are delights though. I mean, it's not all bad. This film really is interested in epic storytelling of the War of the Rings, the idea of Sauron, the suggestion of the magic, and the magicians like Saruman, and which kind of looks very 70s, the way they do Saruman with all these like epics, like stars in the background, and a sense of this was a result of someone who taken too many drugs. It just feels very psychedelic and very 70s, and where you'd seen a lot of the Marvel stuff, comics, and a lot of like comics were influenced. Some people who had been druggies and some people weren't, but everyone went in the same pot, and it had a certain style. If we read comics in the 70s, this film very much the feel of. So it's not that imaginative, but if you can look back nostalgic to it, it does have some interesting things. But nothing kind of coheres very much. It just feels like it's bits here, bits there. And you've got traditional animation in some parts, then you've got other parts that's basically they've drawn over live action. They've shot stuff live action and they've drawn over to make it animated. And it doesn't look right. It looks interesting, but it doesn't look right. You do get a sense of epicness, but it's like, I'd feel much more epic if you actually showed me the visual footage. And you don't get that. You get this weird sense of distance from the orcs. The orcs just look weird. And it just looks like human beings with strange red things coming from, which is interesting. But it does a sort of a different version of these characters in the sense of a much more cosmic take on the thing. But you wish there was actually more cohesion in the different techniques, because you just feel like it's, let's try this, let's try that. Not like, we're doing this for a reason, we're doing that for a reason, we're doing it this way for a specific reason, they'll pay off later on with this other thing and this other thing. It's just a feeling of, whatever we can do to get this thing done, we'll do. So you have bland animation, and you have these epic scenes that don't match that bland animation, so you get this whiplash where you don't know where you're coming or going, and you've got all these creatures like the Treebeard is very cutesy and that doesn't work. But then again, other stuff like the Wraiths work really well, because they were very influential in the Peter Jackson version. But these ones look more like zombies. They look more like zombies, like the living dead, and they're cursed, and they're basically taking over bodies of the doomed. And that's kind of creepy and it's weird, and you just wish the rest of the film was up to the standard. But really, most of it isn't. But most of the stuff you remember from this film is just the epicness of what they're trying to do. But it's the epicness of something that's failed, rather than something that understands it. I mean, one of the things I wasn't so keen on in the Jackson films, in the sense of, it was very much like, because it's so based in the character, sometimes you felt you lost some of the epicness of the world. So it focused on what that meant to the characters, which is what you needed for this story to transfer over. But you lost some of the cosmic edge and some of the sense of the worlds beyond the story you're telling. But when you see them try to do it the other way, it's like, well, good, because that other way of doing it was actually a stronger way of doing it. That's what kept you going. I mean, I wish there was a bit more of that in the Jackson films, but it's fine, I can do without it. This film showed it was like, you need the character stuff. Because they never quite got the design of these other things. They did get a sense much more of the geography of why people were doing this or that. Because it was less epic, it was less, the running time was less epic. But you lost all the character stuff as well. So you'd have a scene with Wormtongue, and that'd be it. And he's like, no, this should have taken a lot more longer to actually do, and it should have been more developed the way they did it in Two Towers. Because it really worked in Two Towers, and this one, it's just like, it's a scene that get lost. Gandalf's return, it's another scene and get lost. And the funny thing is, the Helm's Deep looks like a bigger castle in this one. It looks more impressive castle. But they do a lot less with it than Peter Jackson did in Helm's Deep. So it's a less effective sequence, ultimately. But you think, I wish they'd done a castle more like that design and did everything they did in it. But the way they did it in the Two Towers was a much more impressive version of this. So everything's done better in the Peter Jackson version, is what I'm basically saying. You know, this is not the kind of, this showed them type of version of the film. No, this is what you didn't really do. It's kind of like David Lynch's Dune, except David Lynch is like a very talented guy, so even his disastrous version of Dune is still fascinating in ways that this film can't really compare to. So there's a reason why it has that kind of dustbin of history feel to it. It's something people don't talk about that much, unless they're videos like this, because it's not that good. It's okay in some places, but it's interesting as a failure, an interesting way of the influences happened, but it also shows you what Jackson learned from it, which was, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, and focus on the characters. You must focus on the characters or you're dead. Because this film didn't do any of that, didn't focus on the characters at all, and it collapsed into this tedium, basically, because they're going from scene to scene, and you're getting bored because it's like, well, why am I watching this? It feels like I'm missing so much. But also the thing is, there's not scenes in between these other scenes to make me care about what's happening. It's just like, we're trying to rush through this, and the pacing's all off. So they go from the front where all the kind of horsemen are to Helm's Deep almost instantly. And it's like, well, that's not satisfying. And if you remember the Peter Jackson one, it took a while to get there. And that was a big part of the film, and it's like, that was way more satisfying because it felt there was effort done. So, yeah, this is a film that you could watch it, but you're probably just better off watching the Jackson films again. They're much more satisfying than this. And there's nothing here that's amazingly brilliant. There's really not. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. But it definitely is a what the hell is this? It's definitely a film that doesn't quite work. So, that's me for now. I'll see you later. Bye.